The search for Michael Vaughan continues. Michael went missing from his neighborhood in Fruitland in July of 2021. He was just 5 years old at the time. Law enforcement has spent the last year and a half investigating. But the Fruitland police chief says a credible tip led investigators to a home near Michael's neighborhood this weekend.
Crews are back out in Fruitland today searching for Michael Vaughan. Police believe his remains are in the backyard of a Fruitland home, and today is the 6th day crews are excavating the yard. Crews could be at the house on Red Wing Street for another week. This house is just 4 minutes from the Vaughan's home.
As you know, from the time Michael went missing, this has been an all-hands-on-deck investigation, and it remains very active and an ongoing investigation. You can't take one of our most precious citizens from us and ever expect us to stop. During the course of this investigation to date, we received credible information that the remains of Michael Vaughan could be found in the backyard at 1102 Red Wing Street in Fruitland. As a result, the Fruitland Police Department obtained a search warrant for the residence along with the front and backyards. That search warrant was served on November 11th. It was a Friday. We served that late in the evening. Upon entry, officers encountered Sarah Vaughan, one of the known occupants of the home, and Sarah was subsequently arrested based on probable cause that she had knowledge of Michael's death and failed to report that death to law enforcement. The following day, the Fruitland Police Department, joined by the Idaho State Police, the Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue, the Fruitland Fire Department, and the Fruitland Public Works Department, began a very methodical excavation of the backyard of the Wanderer's home. During that excavation process, the Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue, Mountain States detection dogs deployed multiple certified human remains detection dogs on the property, all of them alerting to the presence of human remains. Ground penetrating radar was also used and deployed, detecting anomalies in the backyard. We completed the excavation of the entire backyard and removed over 250 yards of dirt. Prior to backfilling the yard, the dirt was meticulously sifted for any potential human remains. We did not find Michael's remains. Although the remains of Michael Vaughan were not recovered, we strongly believe, based on evidence, that Michael was abducted and is deceased, and that his remains were buried and later moved from the property. As of today, the whereabouts of his remains are unknown. However, the investigation is active, fluid, and ongoing. Once the excavation was complete, we conducted a thorough search of the Wanderer's residence. The search was productive, and additional investigative evidence was recovered and is currently being processed.
Evidence suggests that the following individuals who are currently in custody are involved in the abduction of Michael Vaughan. Sarah Vaughan, 35 years old. Sarah lives at 1102 Red Wing Street in Fruitland and was living there at the time of Michael's disappearance. We believe that Sarah has firsthand knowledge and is involved in Michael's abduction. Sarah Vaughan is currently being held at the Payette County Jail for failing to report a death to law enforcement. And Stacy Vaughan, 30 years old, a male. Stacy was also living at 1102 Red Wing Street in Fruitland and was living there at the time of Michael's disappearance. We believe that Stacy has firsthand knowledge and is involved in the abduction of Michael Vaughan. Brandon Shirtliff, 30 years old, of Kuna, Idaho. Brandon was living with Sarah and Stacy Vaughan at 1102 Red Wing Street at the time of Michael's disappearance, and we believe Brandon has firsthand knowledge of Michael's abduction. Adrian Lucian, 32-year-old male out of Toledo, Ohio. Adrian was staying with Sarah and Stacy Vaughan at 1102 Red Wing Street at the time of Michael's disappearance, and we believe that Adrian has firsthand knowledge of Michael's abduction.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Had to do a quick mic check. How is everybody doing? Welcome. Thank you for joining me here at Missing PNW Crimes Revisited. I am your host, Samantha. It is Monday, April 7th, 2025. It is my granddaughter's birthday today, and we had a blast over the weekend. And today has definitely been a Monday. I don't know about you guys, but it has been a Monday. Oh, who do we have in here? NC Sparran. I don't even know if I am pronouncing your name right, but thank you for coming in. Pretty Assessor, thank you for being here. Angel Girl, thank you for being here. Oh yeah, we are going to be seeing some Chris McDonough today. Oh goodness, I just absolutely adore him. 42 years of service. Bless his heart. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Sarah, Suspicious, my amazing moderator. Thank you so much for coming in, love. Thank you guys for coming. Rizzo, thank you for being here. Lucia, thank you for being here. It is so quiet today. Amanda, thank you for coming in. Good to see you, hun. Sally Mae. So much support for Michael as usual. You guys are amazing. Sparkling Bubbles. Ooh, I love Sparkling Bubbles. Hello. Good to see you. Thank you. 9 years old. Oh my gosh, they grow up way too fast. Ooh, today's been a stressful Monday. It's just been a Monday from the get-go. My landlord calls. She's like, hey, I don't see the rent in my bank. I'm like, I paid it. So I had to make all of these phone calls to make sure that the rent was paid, and it was. And then she was having problems with her bank, and it turned into a thing. And then I got hit with renewals by my AAA, my Norton Security for my computer, and all these other payments. And I am like, what is going on? Is everybody trying to take my money? Everything got worked out, but damn, what a Monday. I am so glad to be sitting with you guys now to enjoy the rest of my evening, and yeah, just be here with you guys, talk about Michael Vaughan, because I absolutely adore the children that I do research on and everything. It warms my heart. It is very heartbreaking to know kids are missing, or they've been abducted or hurt in any way, but these moments, being here with you guys, just makes my day a little bit brighter, and knowing that I'm doing something to help a child also helps so much. Yeah, all the things, like everything hit me today, Sarah. I was just like, why? Whew. So, April 7th, 2025. It has flown by since January. It's springtime in the Pacific Northwest. We've had on and off storms. It has been raining outside today, hailing outside today, sunny outside today. It's just been crazy, crazy weather, but I'm so looking forward to being able to plant some more plants out in the garden and just enjoy the spring and the summer. Today, we are going to be reviewing Chris McDonough's interview with Tyler Vaughan. I also found another news clip that I want to play from NewsNation that also has Brandy and Tyler in it. And we're going way back. So way back, because not only has this been an interview I've always wanted to share with everybody and review it. It's not like we're going to be analyzing Chris McDonough, okay, because Chris McDonough is one of the best. There's no reason to analyze, but he analyzes Michael Vaughan's case. He talks with Tyler. There's actually another interview that he does with Brandy, and I was going to ask all of you guys if you guys wouldn't mind watching that too, if you guys wouldn't want to review that as well, even though this is older and things are going to be talked about like it's just happening. It's very important to watch this particular interview with Tyler because Tyler isn't seen very often. Tyler doesn't get up and talk very often. There was a lot of social media things. I would just have to say, without getting into family business or anything, there were some social media things happening, going on. Some of his words misconstrued, turned into horrible rumors, where there's actually people out there that accuse Tyler of having something to do with Monkey being gone, which is absolutely ridiculous. And it's so funny that one of the interviews that I want to share from NewsNation happens to also be on another channel who is also responsible for spreading that particular rumor. Won't get into names, but Mac Sporin is how I pronounce it. They're from Scotland. Oh my goodness. From Scotland. I've always wanted to see Scotland. What beautiful, beautiful lands. Castles and all those good things. Yes, at least I have seen the sun. Yes, because, I mean, usually in the springtime, it is just pouring, pissing rain. Oh my goodness, Brandy, thank you so much, hun. You are super, and I just appreciate you so, so much. God bless you. And now we got to do a little party in our chair to celebrate a super sticker. Let's just do that one more time. I really do appreciate it so much, Brandy. You are so special. All your comments, joining Michael's Facebook group, just all of your information has been so helpful. Thank you for joining in conversation and being here every week, hon. Hair curlers and crime. I don't care if you're late. Good to see you, hon. Best name on the YouTube streets right there. But yeah, just, you know, the rumors with Tyler and everything is been absolutely horrible. When I watched this interview with Tyler with Chris McDonough, it left no room in my mind whatsoever, not that there ever was any, that Tyler nor Brandy has had nothing, you know, nothing, absolutely nothing to do with Michael's disappearance. And not only does it go over Tyler, but this talks about, and so does the other interview by NewsNation, how Michael left the house. What happened that day? So we're going all the way back to July 27th, 2021, when Michael Joseph Vaughan was abducted from Fruitland, Idaho, in his neighborhood. And there are 4 named suspects: Stacy Wandra and Sarah Wandra, Adrian Lucian and Brandon Shirtliff. They are all still the named suspects in Michael Joseph Vaughan's abduction. The DA has met with the Vaughan family. They have showed them the charges that they have written up. And as soon as the DA gets everything put together and does all of the things, indictments will come and the charges are written out for these 4 suspects. And tips are still so very important in Michael Joseph Vaughan's abduction and murder. Because even though the DA has all of the charges right now, it's a nobody case because Michael has never been found. But we do know that Michael was abducted by one of these 4 suspects. He was murdered by one of these 4 suspects. We know that Michael was buried in the Wandra's yard because of the tip that Stacy Wandra provided to law enforcement while he was incarcerated. Yes, he provided the tip. He called law enforcement, told them to come see him. He had a tip, not a long interrogation, a mean interrogation, not a poor Stacy Wandra got bullied by police to give up this information. He freely gave up the tip to law enforcement to make a deal because he knows that he's looking at life in prison or the death penalty. And one of these 4 suspects know exactly where Michael is today after being moved from the Wandra's backyard to an unknown location. And it's just so very sad to know that there are people out there that know what happened to Michael, that know where Michael is, and nobody is coming forward. And after 3.5 years, Brandy Neal Vaughan is so very sick. That's Michael's mama. She is looking at getting a liver here very, very soon, but she has been fighting for her life for months. And the family is going through that on top of everything that is moving in Michael's case right now. It's adding a lot of stress. Buggy's been having nightmares. You know, a story that I didn't share with you guys before is Michael's brother was supposed to go and get a haircut with Michael just a few days after Michael was abducted. And he hasn't went and got a haircut. He let his hair just keep growing and growing because he didn't want to go get a haircut. Here recently, I want to say like a month or so ago, he finally was able to get his hair cut. He had tried once before. He had, you know, some very emotional feelings and just was not able to do it. When he finally went and got his hair cut. But the family is suffering in so many ways that nobody sees behind closed doors, like Michael's brother struggling to get his hair cut, or Buggy having nightmares, or how Blue is going through school and trying to graduate this year while her mom is sick, while helping her mom take care of the house and do things because Tyler has to work and she's trying to help with the kids. So there's so many layers to this that nobody understands. And somebody out there has information about Michael's abduction, maybe even has some information about one of these suspects, something they heard, something they know, even if it's rumor, you can call the tip line at 208-642-6006, or you can email findmichael@fruitland.org. Remain anonymous. You can collect over $52,000 in reward money if the information leads law enforcement to Michael Vaughan. Let law enforcement determine whether or not your tip is credible. Okay? You may think that it isn't anything, but it could be something very important that the DA could use in this case. And if it's something so very valuable, it would help so much because right now it's a nobody case. And that could be the nail in the coffin, that one tip. So please call law enforcement 208-642-6006 or email findmichael@fruitland.org. You know, we're talking about the layers in the family of what things have gone through, and we know about Brandy and her health and her liver disease, and we know she was drinking a lot because of Blue's story. And that's why she ended up with liver disease. Well, Tyler, you know, he has also suffered. Not only was he the parent that was at home that day, on Tyler's watch, Michael wandered away. The guilt that he has felt is just, you know, something he still deals with. And I mean, how heartbreaking to know that he feels guilty for what happened to his son. Like it's his fault. Even though Brandy stands with him and tells him, we know it's not your fault, you know, because Michael had wandered away from the house once before, following his brother to the splash pad. So there's so many layers. Mom and dad wanting to sleep on the couch all of the time because it's right next to the front door in case Monkey came home. Them wanting to sleep outside on the porch in case Monkey came home. Not wanting, you know, to let their phone die because they would be worried that a phone call would come in while their phone was dead, have to keep it charged, have to keep it sitting right next to them. Don't have to know exactly where their phone is all day, every day for over 3.5 years in case that one call, that one thing, we found Michael comes. Nightmares after seeing the confession footage from Stacy Wandra and hearing all of the things that he said about what happened to Michael being buried in the backyard in a garbage bag by Sarah, by Adrian. Who knows what truth lies in anything that he said, but can you imagine having nightmares about that or hearing him talk about how Brandon Shirtliff bound Michael up in a spare bedroom at his mom's house? There's so many layers and there's so many things that none of us would ever want to happen to us, our families. And yet the Vaughan family is going through all those things. And somebody out there has a tip. I pray that one of the suspects will come forward, give Michael justice, bring the Vaughan family peace. And if anybody out there has any information, please call the Fruitland tip line at 208-642-6006 or email findmichael@fruitland.org. Take a friend into the police department. If you're too scared to make that call or that email, tell them what you know. Let law enforcement decide if your tip is credible. It's so important not to keep anything like that to yourself, because you could hold the key. And we already know the DA wouldn't have written out charges and everything else unless they were getting ready and had everything that they needed to move forward. The belief that they can prosecute and win. Otherwise, those charges wouldn't even have been written up. But that doesn't mean we still don't need tips. That just makes the case stronger. So again, Fruitland tip line 208-642-6006 or email findmichael@fruitland.org. There will come a day. Justice will come. We are going to keep fighting for the Vaughan family and for Monkey. We're never going to stop asking questions. We're never going to stop putting pressure on these suspects until either they're arrested and put in prison or until law enforcement says they're no longer suspects, which I don't think will ever happen. We just have to keep fighting for the Vaughan family and for Monkey to find justice for Michael and the family and to find peace. Let this family mourn for Michael the way that they deserve to. and move on with their lives. As hard as it is to say, there's always those what ifs. Where's Michael? What happened to him? You know, so many questions going through their minds all day, every day. You know, what can they do? What phone call can I make? Being here for the family is so important. I know that the Vaughan family appreciates the lives on Monkey. Doesn't matter who's doing the lives, who's talking about Michael. And in all actuality, Brandy doesn't even care if the person's lying and making up rumors as long as her son's name is out there. For real. She really doesn't, as long as somebody's talking about Michael. Not that she likes what they're saying, but he's getting awareness. No matter how he's being mentioned out there. Hello, Slim. Good to see you this evening, hun. And you guys are amazing for showing up all of the time for Monkey. No, it is not Tyler's fault. Things happen. It only takes a second for anything to happen. You could have your child in a grocery cart walking around Walmart. It happens all the time. Turn for a second to grab something off the shelf and turn around and your child's gone out of the cart. It just so happens that Monkey decided he wanted to wander away that day and that there were monsters in the neighborhood lurking around and had been all day long. So, let me see. Sarah's suspicious says, I knew from the beginning Michael's parents are innocent. Never a suspicion. They weren't. I've always prayed for them and their family. I knew from the moment I watched with this one in particular news broadcast with Brandy in her living room. Deflection is a huge thing. Most parents involved in their own child's missing, they won't talk about the tip line or posting up flyers. Those are things they will deflect away from, distance themselves from. Brandy can rattle off that tip line phone number right off of the top of her head. She always wants people to share Michael, put up flyers, you name it. She does all of the things. The way that she talks, and the one that actually got to me was so heartbreaking. And the grace that she shows, the patience that she shows, even with the suspects. For instance, coming up here on this panel and talking with Stacey Wandra and putting up with all of his god-awful shit was just horrible to watch. But look how graceful she was. Look at the patience that she had with somebody yelling and screaming, distancing himself, lying to her face while she's begging to know where her son is. I could just see her beautiful, pure heart and knew right away that she had nothing to do with her son missing. And then after watching a couple of other reports, I knew for sure that Tyler had nothing, especially this particular interview that we're going to be reviewing here shortly with Chris McDonough. Okay. In my opinion, what suspects will crack first? Well, Stacey Wandra's already kind of cracked, but I believe that he would come forward with more information if he had it. I just do not believe that he knows where Michael is to give out any more information. Now, when indictments come out and there's cuffs put on people's wrists, who's going to crack? That's really hard. Possibly Brandon, if he knows where Michael is, Brandon, or Sarah. Kelly Dime says our children should be able to walk up and down their streets without being taken by somebody. Exactly. I remember as a little kid, I used to get on my bicycle and I would travel from downtown Vancouver, Washington, across town on my bike, go to parks and play, do all of these things all over the city all the time and never have to worry about it. There was a couple of little creepy things that happened, I will admit, and I've talked about them before on the show, but it's definitely not as bad as it is now. No problem, Ruby. Thank you for being here, hun. Bish, please. I'm not against anything. I'm just saying no child should be alone. In this day and age, I agree with you. You cannot do anything, when a child makes their own decision to walk away. Yes, it's very unfortunate that this case these days hints why I said should. Yeah. It's very sad to know what happens. So this first interview, like I said, these are going to be older interviews. I see you. Hello. I see you too. Good to have you, hon. These interviews are older. They talk about things like, the parents. Well, I don't want to get into all the things. Just keep in mind that these are older interviews. As we go through, I am going to pause here and there, even in like the NewsNation interview here that I am about to play first. Yeah, kids are always running around everywhere in the stores. I agree. It only takes seconds. Yeah, when I am out at the park, when I'm at the store with any of my grandbabies, my eyes are glued. When we go to restaurants, perfect example, over the weekend, I had both my 9 and my 10-year-old granddaughters with me at Applebee's. One of them had to go to the restroom, and I said, okay, you go with her. You guys go together. We were sitting right next to the restroom. I would have seen if anybody go in, but the buddy system is something that I really, truly believe in. And in the restaurants, yeah, you're not going into the bathroom by yourself. You guys can go together. And if it would have just been me and my granddaughter and my husband, I would have went with her, but the girls were able to do that. Yeah, it's very disheartening to see. Even in my neighborhood, me and my husband saw a little girl riding her bicycle, and it was out on the main road right outside our neighborhood. And she couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. Maybe older. I don't know if she was just a tiny, but yeah, one of my grandbabies, they ain't riding in the neighborhood at 6 or 7 years old down a main road. Somebody can just pull over in a van or something. And no, I can't even think about it. It's so hard to think about. So let me get this pulled up. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Hold on. Okay.
Huge search for a 5-year-old boy.
Hold on a second. I wanted to get fast here. Okay, you guys can see this. Let me blow it up even bigger for you. We will pause off and on. This is a 7-minute. We won't watch everything, but just part of it. A couple of pieces are just very important to talk about Michael's day.
Welcome back. Tonight in our Missing series, a renewed search for a 5-year-old boy named Michael "Monkey" Vaughan. We brought you his story for the first time last year, but tonight, the first national TV interview with both of Michael's parents and newly released photos of a man police say was nearby at the time of Michael's disappearance. Correspondent Marky Martin is joining us live. And Marky, you've been with this case for some time now. You traveled to Idaho last winter to speak with his mother, but now you've had the chance to speak to both of his parents. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Natasha, so we heard from Michael's dad, Tyler, for the very first time this week. He was the parent who was actually at home at the time that Michael went missing. And today marks 1 year since that little boy, who is lovingly known as Monkey, walked out the door and never came home.
We haven't stopped. Every day we have unfinished business, and I'll tell you that every day is an anniversary of the disappearance from Michael Vaughan.
It's been 365 days, a year of searching with no answers. For the 5-year-old Fruitland boy whose 2021 disappearance garnered nationwide attention and support.
Hi. How are you doing, bud?
Last July, Michael Vaughan was at home with his dad and baby sister while mom was at work. Family says he walked out, searching for neighborhood kids to play with.
He went to a neighbor's house. He went to another neighbor's house and another neighbor's house.
And right here, I just want to stop. It's been 365 days. Michael, they still do not know where he's at. What has happened. I think they had some information in regards to maybe some possible suspects, but had not pointed any fingers yet. This is in July of 2022. And remember, August, September, October, November, 4 months away, Stacy Wandra comes forward with this tip in November of 2022. So this is 4 months prior to him giving his tip. And like you just heard Brandy, Michael leaves the house. He went to this house. He went to this house. She's talking about him going from house to house. So he's being seen in the neighborhood alone, not with any of the parents, not with any of his siblings, not with his papa. He is being seen alone in his neighborhood on 9th Street, the street they live on. And look at little Buggy. Look how tiny she was. She was just a baby, and Michael was her absolute best friend.
Last winter, Michael's mom, Brandy, invited our NewsNation team to their Idaho home, walking us through her son's last moments there.
He would have come out of the garage. The front door is pretty hard to get out of, and you can hear that opening.
At the time, his dad, Tyler, declined to speak with us. But this week, that changed. The couple sitting together for their first national TV interview.
And like I said, in the beginning, there were some social media things that happened, people pointing fingers at Tyler. It wasn't like he never wanted to talk. He talked with law enforcement. They did everything they were asked to do for law enforcement. It was speaking on the news and those kinds of things out in the public. Brandy was better at it in doing it, and it was harder for him because of things that were being said on social media or being said about him, because he was the parent that was left home with Michael.
It doesn't feel like a year. It's been an eternity.
Tyler, a lot of people curious why, if you were the one at home, why you haven't done a lot of talking with the media. What's your response to people who want to know that question?
Because I was the one at home. I feel like because I was the responsible party. I don't like being in the public eye at all, and it's because I, to some extent, blame myself.
For most of the afternoon, Tyler says Michael played with his monster trucks and Nintendo Switch, and that around dinner time, he ordered a pizza and went down the hall to change the baby's diaper. When he came back out, Michael wasn't there.
Searched the house, searched the backyard, went out in the front yard, jumped in the van, called Brandy.
He says he raced around the neighborhood and was the one who called 911.
The Fruitland Police, Payette Police, and Payette County deputies and citizens searched through the night until support arrived the following morning.
In the last year, more than 3,000 acres and nearby river have been searched. No suspects have been named, but authorities say they have persons of interest.
So right there, you're hearing a year out, they have persons of interest. So it's being confirmed here that they do have persons of interest at this time.
Fruitland police asking for the public's help in identifying this man, seen in newly released photos, walking in a nearby park at the time of Michael's disappearance. And to this day, nobody has been cleared, including Tyler and Brandy. What do you tell people who say, do they know more than they're letting on?
A lot of the speculation online is based in fantasy land.
Law enforcement and God knows our truth, and we'll stand firm and stand strong.
Fruitland police.
And here NewsNation is even saying a year later, and parents were not cleared. But like she said afterwards, law enforcement knows. They know the truth. God knows the truth and what happened. And law enforcement stands with Brandy and with Tyler. They have said that before. She has repeatedly said it. They talk about them all being one big family. The Vaughans talk with law enforcement all the time. They are like family. The parents have had nothing to do with their son's disappearance.
He's confirming with NewsNation the couple has cooperated with the investigation. Today, Michael would be 6, his parents grieving another summer without him, a summer they say should be spent playing and camping as a family.
Right. Time for bed now.
But I still want to look at some stars.
He is pure joy, love, excitement, much excitement, energy, lots of energy. You can't not fall in love with him.
Both Tyler and Brandy tell me they do believe that their son is out there alive. They still believe he's coming home. And Natasha, I asked both of them, what would justice look like in your eyes? Brandy's answer was if her son comes back alive and well, she could find it in her heart to forgive. Tyler said he just wants his child home. Legal punishment would take care of the rest. And I do also have to mention, to this day, Fruitland police, they have declined to go on camera for an interview with our crew since day one.
And there you have it. I mean, that is the nature of Brandy Neal Vaughan, is it not? That she would find it in her heart to forgive if Monkey could come home. And again, this is 4 months prior to the tip that Stacy Wanderer gives about Michael being buried in the Wanderer's yard. So at this particular point, they are still believing and assuming that Michael is alive. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. And you know, okay. And you know, it's not like Tyler wasn't watching his son. It's not like he wasn't watching Michael. He was watching Michael. He walks away to go into a room to change the baby's diaper, and Monkey walks out of the house. You guys will see as Chris McDonough goes through it all exactly what happened, and no parent is to blame. No, you know, to say that, you know, Tyler feels bad or he feels guilty because he wasn't watching his child. That is insane to me. I mean, like I had said earlier, it is heartbreaking, and it can happen to anybody. And if it happened to you, you wouldn't want anybody putting that blame on you, saying that you weren't watching your child. Right? They go to change diapers all the time. It is normal. My daughter lives in a 2-story house. She'll take the baby upstairs to change her butt on her changing table. My 4-year-old grandson stays downstairs. He's just now learning how to, unlock and open up the front door. They've had to put a lock up at the top because of it. But if they had not known that he was capable of doing that, or if he had tested himself while mama was upstairs changing my granddaughter's diaper, he could have wandered out the front door. And like I said the other day, my daughter woke up one morning. I did not know she had already woken up, and she had usually came in and woke me up when she'd wake up, walk from her room straight into mine. And she decided she was going to wake up and walk outside the front door and go into another neighbor's house. I woke up to the neighbors knocking on my door saying, hey, and I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for bringing her home. Terrified that she had gotten out. Immediately, all of the things happen where I'm putting up new locks and everything else so she can't get out of the house and proofing everything. But it happens. That's the point. It happens. Yeah, exactly, Kelly. Who brings their 5-year-old from room to room with them? Yeah. Are you just supposed to be that helicopter mom, okay, I'm going to go walk into this room. Come with me. I'm going to go carry my folded clothes and put them away in my dresser. Okay, you guys have to come with me because you can't leave them safely in their home that they're comfortable in. You should be able to do that. They should be able to go off and play in their bedrooms or watch TV in the living room or go into the family room or, that's why all of the proofing and stuff is done. But you cannot put blame on parents, and they've gone through enough. Here's another story by Beverly. She says, my granddaughters climbed on top of a shed. They hollered for me. I left them there because I knew what they were doing. They got themselves down after about an hour. Oh, good Lord. Oh, no. Yeah. Anything can happen at any time, and that's just the point. You cannot put blame on parents. Trust me, Tyler has put enough blame on himself, has put enough guilt on himself. He is still struggling every single day with the trauma, okay? We do not need to do that, and point fingers at him. A matter of fact, if I see it in chat, you're probably just going to get timed out because that's how against I am about putting blame on the parents for anything, especially when they have had nothing to do with it. But I'll be done ranting. Hello, Julia. Welcome in. Good to see you, hun. So let's do this one. This is Chris McDonough's interview with Tyler and Brandy. He's at the home. He even talks to Papa. You're going to hear Buggy in the background running around, laughing. You'll see her playing and stuff. He's there at their home in Fruitland, Idaho, talking with them. And he's going over everything. And while he's talking, asking questions, and they're answering questions, he goes over how it's almost impossible for certain things to happen. And then if we have time, we will sit and listen to Chris McDonough analyze what he knows about Michael's case. But for now, we're going to just watch this interview that he does there at the Fruitland home when he talks with Tyler. And Then if you guys want to, after this, at the very end, I'm just, before I stop the live or whatever, we'll talk about whether or not we want to go over the interview that he does with Brandy. Again, it's all early on, but I have found here recently, especially going over everything that we've been going over, there's a lot of new stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that I've missed, and I have been very obsessive with this case. I know Kelly has too. She's very close with Brandy. We're still catching things. We're still seeing things that we've never seen or heard before. And if we are, when we both, and Kelly more so, with all of our research and listening to interviews and listening to everything just over and over again, if we're still catching things, everybody else is going to also be seeing new things for the first time too. And that's, I think, what's very important here. So, Chris McDonough, I'm going to put his link to the interview room in the chat, and it is already in the description box. The channel is in the description box. For the rest of the live, if you want to continue watching it, is what I'm going to put in chat for this particular interview in case we don't finish going over it all. And then, we'll talk more about what else we want to watch this week.
Let's get into the focus on this sweet little boy. We need to help. We need to help. The PD needs your tips. So let me get this set up, and then we'll go from there.
His 5th birthday right here. We all went to the splash pad. He went to Roaring Springs and the park next by it.
And this is the photo on the flyer, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And
This,
where'd you get this from?
this was from,
I love that.
I have another.
I will let you guys know that the background noise like this right here, their fan in the living room, kind of messes with the being able to hear Chris and Brandy talk right here in the backyard when Buggy's running around. So you'll have to turn up your volume in order to hear things.
That is from the movie night. They played the Sandlot in the park in Fayette. And there were a lot of community members there, and just to help bring awareness as well as other things.
And the monster truck was in the backyard at was just one of them that
This
he was
is a
playing
gift.
with that day?
This is a gift, actually.
Okay. So earlier that day, you're at work. Okay. And that's been verified. It's been your video, your phones, everything is there. Okay.
So immediately, Chris McDonough talking with Brandy. So you're at work at Albertsons. It's verified. They have you on camera. Your phone was there. They know for a fact Brandy was at Albertsons that day, the day that Michael was abducted. And he starts going over everything. And right off the bat, we know Brandy was where she said she was and where she was supposed to be that day, had nothing with Michael's disappearance, with Michael's abduction.
So there is no question where you are. Okay. So there is a 5-year-old up the street. It was a 5-year-old up the street. And there's information that he was seen on the street going up towards that house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't know that at the time?
No.
Okay, but you've since learned that.
Yes.
Right, through all the neighbors and there's been a couple of neighbors that have come forward and said they actually saw it.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And
So now Tyler is finding out and knows now, but didn't know then, that Michael was being seen all over the neighborhood on 9th, talking with neighbors and stuff while he was out looking for a little boy. And Chris is just verifying that. So now we have verification right here. Michael was seen in the neighborhood. He wasn't with anyone. Michael was alone.
So let's kind of figure out where his favorite spots are. Okay. And I know he goes down this path, and it looks like you can cut through your garage. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Was the garage in the same setup today as it was back then, or was it a little bit different?
I would say it's the same as it was. That door right there is almost open 24/7.
Okay.
That's
And your neighbor told me that too, by the way. They said that he just cuts through the garage.
Yeah.
And at the time, that wood pile was not there out front, right?
right.
So that's all new.
That happened after that tree blew down like a week after.
Okay, so he could actually hypothetically go through there and then go that way and go visit. So he could come through this door. And Tyler, this is the work shed here.
Yes.
Can I go in? Okay, so this is where you do all your thing. Okay. And you were in here working for a little bit, not all the time, right?
Yeah, I was going to show you the monster truck pad, but I don't know where it went. It was sitting out for the longest time, but it was before the safe was here. It's kind of up layer. Oh, there's the bottom to the monster truck arena. I don't know where all the pieces are. That's kind of what was going on that day.
And you guys have kind of moved those around since that time.
Well, like I said, they kind of stayed put for months. I think when they finally did move, it was Doug that moved them.
And the authorities have searched this inside and out.
More than once.
More than once. Wow.
I mean, very,
in this room
very
or
thorough.
in that garage?
It's in the, like when you walk into the house from the garage,
right?
The first immediate door to your right,
right,
is like a closet / that's where the water heater is, and they cut that thing open and looked inside it.
Wow.
So here you have Tyler talking about they searched the workspace here more than once, several times. And he just got done saying they even cut the water heater open to check the water heater, and that's in the closet in the house. That's just crazy. I mean, they were looking everywhere on that property for Monkey. Hello, Ashley. Welcome in.
They're checking drawers. I mean, it just very, very thorough.
Okay. And I see his little picture here. Is that when he was a baby?
That was one of the first times that Dad babysat. He was probably younger than Bug.
Got it. Wow.
I mean, even searching drawers, they're looking for anything they can possibly find that may scream something, you know, because we all know when a child comes up missing, parents, they're going to look at the parents first. But what they want to do is they want to talk with the parents. They want to investigate the parents. They want to check them off the list so they can move on. And when parents cooperate, it's very easily done. They're marked off. They move on. They start, you know, the rest of their investigation, you know, and then it's usually friends of the family or other family members. And in this case, it did. It went the same way. Chris even talks about the papa here later on. But they're doing everything they can to just, you know, check their checklist, make sure the parents have had nothing to do with Michael being gone.
Wow.
Now this is quiet right now. They're just walking through the path. to the garage.
This one works a lot better. So he could have come this way, down here, gone this way, see the dogs, like you've talked about, Bob, which your neighbor's dog's here, which he's not, it's.
And that house right there, the neighbors, that is the house that faces the field that we've talked about that's on Arizona. And Michael would talk with the dogs that were on the other side of the fence and stuff, play with them and everything.
It's not uncommon for him to go visit and then come through the garage. And cut through. What kind of car? What's the car?
73 El Camino.
Nice. Classic.
No, this one's usually shut, and it's kind of hard to open, but Michael can do it.
Michael can do it. Yeah. Has he opened it before?
Oh, yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
And this is the door that they believe that Michael went out of to when they left the house. When you heard Brandy speaking earlier, she spoke about how the front door was really hard to open up and it was also very loud and somebody would have heard Michael leaving the house. But this is the garage door.
Okay.
It wasn't in this condition.
What condition was it in?
Well, this,
It's hot out here.
I don't know how this happened. Somehow it got separated there. I'm not sure exactly how, and I haven't got to fix it yet.
But Michael could definitely open this door.
Yeah.
It's not an issue.
Yeah, it's rarely locked.
Right.
I'd say, but it's usually shut.
Has it always been like this?
It always been. That's what causes it to fall apart like it is.
And then this wood pile was not there.
Was not there.
So typically his path would be to go this way, straight down.
Well, that night, I had a horse trailer parked right here. This trailer was up in the front up there, but there was still a room with no wood pile to go in front of the trailer and go over there.
And you know, it's parents when you have this environment like this, it's not hard to lose sight of him, but at the same time, you really are trying to keep him contained in there. Okay, and okay, so walk me through this monster truck thing and all these trucks here. What are these? Let's go down here for a minute and tell me about access points and points that he could get in and get out.
In and out, I suppose you could squeeze through there if he wanted to, but he never has before.
Okay.
The only other way out of
if I put my glasses on? Is that okay?
the only other way out of the backyard is through the garage.
Okay. So when you have, let's talk about a little bit about his past adventures. Okay. He's gotten out of the house before, hasn't he?
Well, when he went to the splash pad, he was 4.
He was 4. So about a year ago.
About a year.
Okay.
No.
A year.
So that is Papa, and he is saying he's gotten out of the house before about a year ago. And they've just established that there's no way to get out of the yard. That the only way really for him to get out of that back area is to go through the garage.
A year before, right. And so, did you find him at the splash pad?
Dad was coming home, and he was following his brother that time. Ben had went to the splash pad, and he went
Behind Ben. Okay, so older brother, younger brother, Ben's going out. I'm going with him. And did you find him over there?
When I got down there, he was down there, and then the older kids walked home, and he rode home with me and got both barrels of Grandpa saying, "You're just too young, and you can't do that."
Okay.
I think he totally understood. He is a smart kid. And he totally understood Grandpa was mad.
Okay.
So Grandpa, reprimands and lets him know, like, Michael, you cannot be doing this. You cannot be following brother to the splash pad. You're too little. But that's what Michael had done a year prior when he was 4 years old, was he just wanted to go follow his brother, Ben, to go up to the splash pad. That's it. And thank God, Papa was driving into the neighborhood and noticed that Michael was out and brought him back home.
And he really didn't do it at all, to my knowledge, after that.
Right. And so, I mean, obviously, people are going to ask, well, how did you lose sight of him? Right? I mean, and how do you want to answer them?
I trusted that he would come out and play in the backyard, and I left him unattended. I mean, that's...
Do you carry that still?
I do.
Okay. And I think
you can see Tyler even getting emotional there, because Chris has asked him, how would you explain that? He trusted Michael to be able to go outside and play in the backyard. He trusted Michael in their home, in his surroundings, where Michael knew where he was allowed to be and everything else. And Chris says here, do you carry that still? And he says, I do. He almost breaks down right here because, he's suffered with this guilt for so long and still has that trauma of that guilt of being the parent that was in charge that day. But I've let my kids go outside and play thousands and thousands of times right outside on the basketball court when they were little, when we lived in apartment complex. I keep the back door open and I could hear my kids. I could look outside. I could peek and see my kids. And they could have wandered off and done anything. But they knew, because I trusted them, that they knew that they were allowed to play at the playground and at the basketball hoop. And that was it.
I don't know if people understand that. And I've seen that in you since getting to know you over the last, time here. Okay. And I can't imagine what that's like. Okay. I've not ever been in your circumstance, but there's a lot of people that judge that as, inappropriate. Okay? Where I want you to know, from me to you, looking at you, talking to you. I mean, I've been here, 2 days now? Okay. And I've gotten to know you. Okay. And that's just how you are. You're just that guy, but you've been carrying it all right here because you were the last one to see it. Am I right? Okay. And that's a heavy weight. Okay. And, I don't want people judging you based on your emotional reaction to a really crazy scenario.
We were playing Monster.
Yeah, even Chris himself, I don't want people judging you. I've been here with you for 2 days. I've gotten to know you. I wanted to talk to you about this because I don't want people judging you, which is exactly what was going on. People were judging Tyler. They were saying some really god-awful things about him. The rumors going through, I mean, can you even imagine? At the time, it had only been a year, no suspects had been named. Everybody has their own opinion. That's fine. Everybody is allowed to have their own opinion. But man, you start spilling out your opinions all over social media or start having lives about your opinions and everything else when you're not using the facts, then awful things can happen. And rumors stick around for years. It's been 15 years since Kyron Horman disappeared, another child's case that I work on. The rumors, this June will be 15 years. The rumors are still going around. People still talk about the rumors. And I'm still like, no, that's a rumor. This is not fact. This is a rumor. And that's what they do. They stick around for years and years and years. And it's heartbreaking to see that even after a year, he can't even really talk about it. Tyler just has his feelings. But Chris McDonough, you can see, He has been with him for two days, talking with him and everything else. He doesn't want people to judge Tyler because even Chris McDonough knows he's had nothing to do with his son's disappearance.
Trucks in the backyard, on the porch, in the shop, in the house. I mean, between all three of them. I left him in the living.
There's a lot of people that judge that as, you know, inappropriate. And where I want you to know, from me to you, looking at you, talking to you. I mean, I've been here, what, 2 days now? Okay. And I've gotten to know you. Okay. And that's just how you are. You're just that guy, but you've been carrying it all right here because you were the last one to see him. Am I right? Okay. And that's a heavy weight. Okay. And, you know, I don't want people judging you based on your emotional reaction to a really crazy scenario.
We were playing monster trucks in the backyard, on the porch, in the shop, in the house. I mean, between all three of them. I left him, pick Arya up, pull that
So the
stuff.
baby was sleeping. Aria was sleeping.
Yes.
Okay, she wake her up. Go ahead.
And then
You
came
come
out
back out, right?
He wasn't in the backyard. He wasn't in the living room.
Okay.
I didn't think anything of it because I figured he was playing Switch with Ben in the bedroom.
Okay.
I was out here for maybe 5 minutes. I came back in, opened the door. He's not in there with Ben. I asked Ben where he was. Ben didn't know.
So let's just go over that for a minute. Oh, sorry, did not mean to rewind that far. He thought that Michael, did he say he thought Michael was outside?
I left him in the living room.
He left Monkey in the living room to go change the baby's diaper, wake her up and change the baby's diaper. So it's going to take a few minutes to wake up baby, maybe a minute or two, wake up baby. You know, when you wake them up, they're fussy. You got to comfort them a little bit. Okay, then you're laying them back down. You're changing the baby's diaper. Then he says he comes back out and he comes back outside. He's not outside. He doesn't think anything of it because he could have been playing his Switch with his brother, which means, sounds like in his brother's room.
To go wake Arya up, change her, order pizza, pull that
So
stuff.
the baby was sleeping.
And also changing or ordering pizza after changing the baby's diaper. So he's waking the baby up, changing the baby's diaper, ordering pizza, then going outside to check on Michael. He's not there. He's outside for about 5 minutes and then goes back in.
Sleeping. Aria was sleeping.
Yes.
Okay, she wake her up. Go ahead.
And then
You
came
come
out
back out, right?
He wasn't in the backyard. He wasn't in the living room.
Okay.
I didn't think anything
He's not in the backyard. He's not in the living room.
of it because I figured he was playing Switch with Ben in the bedroom.
Okay.
I was out here for maybe 5 minutes. I came back in, opened the door. He's not in there with Ben.
Okay.
Sounds like he opens Ben's bedroom door. He's not in there with Ben.
Asked Ben where he was. Ben didn't know.
And at that time, Ben doesn't even know where Monkey is because he just asked him. So now you've got a good 10, 15 minutes has gone by. Michael's not in the house right now.
Then started to panic.
Okay.
And he's starting to panic now because he knows he's not in the backyard or the living room or in the bedroom with the brother. Where's Monkey?
Checked the house, checked the backyard. And that's when I jumped in the car, drove the splash pad. Where I was
Now,
seen on camera.
and you're seen on doorbells throughout this entire area here.
Now listen to that. Tyler says that he gets in the van and goes and drives up to the splash pad. And Chris McDonough immediately says, and you're seen in doorbells in this entire neighborhood. Now just think about that. What other information does law enforcement have about Monkey? Where he was, what he was doing when he came up missing? If Tyler was seen in his van in that entire neighborhood on doorbell cams, I bet you they were able to figure out exactly where they think Michael was abducted from.
Ring doorbells.
I'm not sure about the specific doorbells. I think they were more in the Cornwall neighborhood where I was also looking.
Okay.
But yes.
And then you're seen on CCTV over at the splash pad. Okay.
And he's also seen on CCTV over at the splash pad when he goes there to look for Michael. Now he corrects Chris and lets him know maybe the doorbell cams in the other neighborhood, but there were a few in their own neighborhood, as far as I've been told.
Okay, and so there's no question that you're out searching for your son. Okay, and I think there's a perception, you know, sometimes that you didn't do anything. Okay, and so we're going to clear that up. Okay, the truth is you actually did a lot. Okay, and when you were looking for him, what was going through your mind?
Panic. I mean, I'm scared.
Okay.
Where's my son?
And did you call anybody at that point while you're driving?
Just Brandy.
So you call your sweetheart and say what?
I can't find Monkey.
Okay, but you're out actively searching for him. Okay, and at some point, there's do you call 911?
So he is driving around the neighborhood. He still can't find Michael. I'm assuming Ben is at the house looking for Michael as well at this point. He's calling Brandy at work in a panic because he can't find Michael. And in the interview that Chris McDonough does with Brandy, she goes through all of that. She's at work. She is doing what she's supposed to be doing at work. She's got her phone in her pocket. She gets a phone call. So we can definitely go over that interview if you guys want to, because we're hearing Tyler's side, and then we can also hear Brandy's side. And at some point here, as Chris McDonough is talking with Tyler, after calling Brandy, he does, yes, eventually call 911.
Yeah, after I got off the phone with her, and I was walking through the Cornwall neighborhood. Okay, and I got to the end of the Cornwall neighborhood back.
And he was walking also through the Cornwall neighborhood, not just in his van. He's also walking around.
I don't even know what to call it, overflow, whatever the heck. But I was back there when
There's a little overflow area that is to the side of the splash pad that I believe that's where he's talking about, where he was walking around. Because if Monkey had gone to the splash pad, maybe he walked a little bit further. And I think Tyler was worried about him getting into that water that's there over that overflow area. That's why he is walking and looking around. But again, seen on CCTV looking for Michael at the splash pad.
I called 911 and then made my way back to the house eventually.
Okay. And when you got back, though,
calls 911 before even making it back to the house.
The police were here already.
There was a police car here.
Okay.
And that's when Dad had pulled up at about the same time.
And that's when.
And then when he gets back to the house, there's 8 police cars there at the house already, and Papa is pulling in.
You pulled up, Bob, because you were actually out of the area.
I left around 3, right at 3. Then I came back at about 7:25.
Okay. And so at that time, when you get back, you see Tyler talking to the police.
No, he was in the yard with the baby. There was a police car that was in front of the house.
Okay.
What's her name? Anita.
Okay. So walk me through a little bit about his personality.
So Papa left the house at 3, doesn't get home till 7:25. We know Papa was gone, getting a haircut, verified. Papa had nothing to do with Michael coming up missing. That puts him with an alibi because he was getting his hair cut And then when he arrives home, Tyler is standing in the yard with the baby. There's a police car out front.
Okay, let's you and I, let's walk around the yard and tell me about how Michael thinks, because, you know, he's kind of a wanderer, right?
He's very curious.
Okay, so it's a curiosity. Yeah. They almost, remember the old saying, the free range children? Is he kind of like that?
Kind of.
Okay.
Out here.
Yeah, but this is a controlled environment. I mean, it's, you know, you've got the fence on both sides, you know, but he likes to go visit the neighbors, right?
For the longest time before the 5-year-old down the street, those were the only kids that there were in the neighborhood.
And that's an important. They've brought dogs through this area? Through
There's been dogs through the backyard. There's been, I don't know how many times I think the house got searched that night.
At least 5.
Okay.
That night, and then a couple
night.
So that night, Papa's saying at least 5 times their house was searched. Searched dogs were there at their house. And then Tyler says, and a couple of nights.
That night and the next day.
Then scent dogs, search dogs, and cadaver dogs. So they've had all 3.
So search dogs, scent dogs, and cadaver dogs. Chris is saying they had all 3.
The authorities have. And by the way, the authorities are
The night of and the next day. And by the way, the authorities are
doing an amazing job. Would you agree with that?
Agree with that.
You know, I think they're doing
Very
just
thorough.
unbelievable, very thorough. Tyler talking to the police.
You know, he was in the yard with the baby. There was a police car that was in front of the house.
Okay.
What's her name? Anita.
Okay. So walk me through a little bit about his personality. Okay. Let's you and I.
Well, there were 8 police cars out front, but then I'm assuming 7 of them probably left to go out looking for Michael. So when Papa pulled up, there was still 1 out front of the house.
Let's walk around the yard and tell me about how Michael thinks, because, you know, he's kind of a wanderer, right?
He's very.
So they've had all 3. The authorities have. And by the way, the authorities are doing an amazing job. Would you agree with that?
Agree with that.
You know, I think they're doing
Very
just
thorough.
unbelievable, very thorough. The environment that Michael is raised in, they're gonna sense it's a really good environment, and I sense it's a good environment. I've watched you, you know, how you have dealt with your daughter. We've gone to dinner, we've hung out for the last couple of days, and you know, we want to help you guys, you know, from the Cold Case Foundation position, help you make sense of this and try, you know, to connect some of these dots, because I'm concerned that if he's a wanderer, which it sounds like he is, okay, that if he made it through that garage and shipped to him going up the street, okay, and that's right around the time you're ordering pizza, isn't it?
About.
Okay, so see the correlation there?
So they're sitting there talking about how about the same time that Tyler's ordering pizza, he's seen out wandering the street. So at that moment, they know for sure. Because there is a time, because you're going to have phone records at the time he called to order the pizza. And Michael is seen outside. And he says, okay, so you see the correlation there?
Okay, that could be very critical. That, yeah, you know, you didn't have 100% eyes on, and then conceal it, and then call the cops and say, my son's missing, get over here, and then be seen on CCTV, you know, talking on the phone and making.
Chris is literally saying there is no time from the time he's on the phone and Michael being seen out on the street to do something to Michael, conceal it, make the phone call, tell police that he's missing. And that's why he mentions this word conceal, because there's no time. And, you know, him being seen on CCTV camera at the splash pad, there is no time for Tyler to have done anything to Michael. Nothing. No involvement here. I just want to back up so you guys can hear that little part, those little details when Chris McDonough mentions all of that and uses the word conceal, because he's talking about hiding Michael after doing something to him is what he's talking about.
So I'm concerned that if he's a wanderer, which it sounds like he is, okay, that if he made it through that garage and shipped to him going up the street, okay, and that's right around the time you're ordering pizza, isn't it? About. Okay, so see the correlation there? Okay, that could be very critical. That, yeah, you know, you didn't have 100% eyes on, and then conceal it, and then call the cops and say, my son's missing, get over here, and then be seen on CCTV, you know, talking on the phone and making phone calls to your sweetheart, who's at work, by the way, right? She's not even here at all. And that's verified through video, through her timestamp at work, through her employers, and, you know, and so all of that information is solid. She's not.
So he's saying Tyler couldn't have anything to do with it. Brandy's at work. It's verified she's at work. She's on camera. She has her phone with her. They know where Tyler was. So he's pretty much verifying right here that he doesn't believe that Brandy or Tyler had any time or any moment to have had anything to do with Michael's disappearance. Papa wasn't at home. He was gone getting his haircut. He left at 3 o'clock, and I believe his haircut was out of town too. And Papa getting his haircut, that's verified. He has his alibi. So he's saying it's solid here. She's not even home. He went to get a haircut and went to a local restaurant where he liked to go. Okay, so see, he's even at a restaurant. Totally had an alibi for himself.
Here, you're not here, Bob. You're in a different town. That's been
And that's what Chris just mentions here. He's in a different town.
Verified. Okay, you are here watching the baby, and right now, you know, I'm not seeing it personally. You know, and so I think it was great to see the chief come out and say, we stand with this family. Okay, but we need other dynamics to take place here, because if the public is focused 100% on you guys, okay, we're missing an opportunity to focus out there where Michael potentially could be in totality. Okay, and this case and other cases, everyone is unique, and this one is extremely unique. So what we need the public to do, what we need you guys to do, is focus outside and start looking again for this little boy. Okay, in totality. Okay? What should happen to the person that did this?
Punished to the full extent of the law. Put him in a room with Brandy for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that would really take him down. That would take him down. Okay. What do you think, Bob? What do you think should happen?
Full extent of the law, for sure. I know there's people out there that know me very well.
I don't know about door cam footage. I just simply said that Tyler was seen on doorbell cams. I was assuming there was a possibility that Michael could have been seen on doorbell cams. But besides that, neighbors came forward. Chris talked about that earlier in this interview. Neighbors came forward and told law enforcement that they saw Michael in the neighborhood by himself. So we know Michael was in the neighborhood by himself. One woman in particular answered the door to Michael and told Michael he needed to go home.
And
you're no cowboy.
They may not make it to the law, put it that way. Because
focused 100% on you guys. Okay? We're missing an opportunity to focus out there where
If the public is focused 100% on you guys, they are missing an opportunity to focus out there, which means out there where Michael is. He doesn't want the focus to be on the parents right now. He wants tips to come in. And if the people in the area are focusing on the parents, nobody's going to be looking for Michael in Fruitland.
And Michael potentially could be in totality.
Kelly says there are 3 different neighbors stating that they saw Michael walking to find someone to play with around the time he disappeared. Yes. Because, sweet, because the CCTV footage is at the east side of 8th Street, but there is no CCTV on the west end of 8th in Arizona or around Michael's house. The CCTV cameras are actually out on the busy street outside of the neighborhood looking into the neighborhood. Those are the only CCTV cameras, and they can see the splash pad. Past that, they cannot see. And that would be like 9th Street in Washington or 8th Street in Arizona. Those are areas the CCTV camera could not see. So the CCTV camera is on the east side, but not the west side.
Okay. And this case and other cases, everyone is unique, and this one is extremely unique. So what we need the public to do, what we need you guys to do, is focus outside and start looking again for this little boy. Okay, in totality. Okay. Things should happen to.
And the only place that CCTV camera picked up Tyler and Stacy was at the splash pad. Tyler is seen on doorbell cams. The rest of the time he is seen.
The person that did this.
Punished to the full extent of the law.
Mom!
I don't believe the CCTV camera is going to see a child in a vehicle if the angles aren't like, you know what I mean? The angles of being able to look in that vehicle are going to have to be spot on. And they saw the vehicle leaving the neighborhood at 7:08 p.m., this red Sierra that Brandon, Sarah, and Stacy left to go to CUNA in. There is one actually on Southwest 8th, just before the splash pad. Google Earth shows it, and it's pointed all the way down Southwest 8th. Kelly is saying that the CCTV is at the splash pad, and there are several cameras in that area. There are no CCTV cameras on 8th in Arizona. Correct. If there had been CCTV cameras on 8th in Arizona and further down West 8th, they would know exactly what vehicle was took Michael, exactly where Michael was.
Put him in a room with Brandy for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that would really take him down. Is extremely unique. So what we need the public to do, what we need you guys to do, is focus outside and start looking again for this little boy. Okay, in totality. Okay. Things should happen to the person that did this.
Punished to the full extent of the law.
What should happen to the person who did this? Tyler says punish him to the full extent of the law.
Mom!
Put him in a room with Brandy.
And then says put him in a room with Brandy.
5 minutes.
Yeah, that would really take them down.
They're suspicious as besides, why would multiple neighbors lie? Come on, guys. Ellie always have more CCTV than we know. They never said he wasn't seen on camera either. I don't understand where all the questions are coming from, where it has to do with the CCTV cameras. We know that Tyler was seen on them and Stacy was seen on them. We know that there are doorbell cameras out there that saw Tyler. We know that neighbors saw Monkey. We do not know if there is any footage of Monkey on any CCTV camera or on footage because we're not privy to that information, and it's not something that law enforcement would release if it had been. I was simply saying that if CCTV did, and it did, see the Sierra leaving the neighborhood, it's not necessarily possible because of angles that the CCTV camera could have seen Michael in the Sierra, that Stacy, Sarah, and Brandon were driving the time on the way to leave to go to Kuna. And that CCTV camera is on the east side of 8th, Southwest and 8th Street. So we're not privileged to everything.
That would take him down. Okay. What do you think, Bob? What do you think should happen?
Full extent of the law, for sure. I know there's people out there that know me very well, and
you're no cowboy.
They may not make it to the law. Put it that way, because we have a lot of friends that have been behind us 100% from day one.
This initially is for the focus to be on the family.
Absolutely.
And you've cooperated.
And and Chris McDonough is saying right there, it is normal for parents to be in the eye of law enforcement, for them to be the focus in the beginning. The law enforcement does not think that Tyler nor Brandy has had anything to do with Michael's abduction or him missing. There is evidence that he was buried in the Wanderers' backyard. That's another reason why the Wanderers are suspects. And Brandon and Adrian were living at the house during that time that he was abducted. They are suspects for a reason. From 8th in Arizona to the splash pad is like 8 to 10 houses away. That's too far for a human to see more or less a camera. For a human to see more or less a camera. Exactly. Cameras can only see a certain distance.
How many times?
Every time they've asked.
Right.
They have cooperated every time they have asked. Just like Chris McDonough's like, how many times have you cooperated? Every time they've asked us.
And the chief has said they stand by you guys and they're going through this journey.
The chief says that he stands by them. Chris McDonough must have talked to the chief, because here he says, let me rewind just a little bit.
Is for the focus to be on the family.
Absolutely.
And you've cooperated how many times?
Every time they've asked.
Right.
Countless.
And the chief has said they stand by you guys and they're going through this journey with you together.
The chief says that he stands with you guys and they're going through this journey with you together. That is the chief. That is J.D. Huff, the chief of police, of Fruitland Police. So even though they haven't been cleared publicly, the chief has told Chris McDonough that they stand with the Vaughan family.
together. I heard him say that. And you know what? That's an honorable man, to live this with you. I know those investigators are probably going 350 miles an hour. Okay. And hopefully now we can get the public though to also see the advantage of looking outside of here and start looking. I mean, you got 5 trucks recently with Mikey's picture on them, and how 10 trucks now? No. 5 trucks. 5 trucks. Okay, in the western states, right? And into that's huge. Okay, that's the kind of messaging we want, because it is the public that one phone call that they pick up and they say, hey, I saw A, B, C, and D. Okay, and it's critical that your neighbors saw stuff, and they told the authorities that day. And all of these people have been interviewed, they've been talked to. Am I right? Okay, and those pieces.
If you stand at Whitley, you can see all the way down 8th, but you're not going to be able to see every single yard, every single house, and see everything clear as day. But yeah, you're going to be able to look down and see a gray road.
Pieces of the puzzle are critical to help keep the momentum going for him, okay? And to help people to think inside of themselves, to say, should I pick up the phone and should I call? You two have been stalwarts together. There's no.
Why is it that every time somebody does a damn live that involves Tyler, you got people coming in that just have to start asking a bunch of questions that make no sense? When we're 3.5 years in, this is done, a little while after he comes up missing. And we know so much more now. There are so many more facts now that most of the questions being asked are irrelevant.
Question in our research today. We have numerous eyewitnesses they saw him that day traveling eastbound on 9th Street.
Have to put the volume on while the music is playing, or YouTube don't like me.
Been tracking some of your
And then this goes into Chris McDonough pretty much analyzing everything that he learned, and maybe this can answer some other people's questions. Thank you for throwing up the interview room. He did a little cruise through the neighborhood. It gets really blurry. You can't really see with the music playing in the background and stuff. YouTube won't like me very much because of the music. But I want to listen to a little bit of what Chris has to say right here, because I hadn't finished watching everything.
Okay, everybody. I've been tracking some of your comments here, and I just want to start right from the get-go. There is no question. All of the things that you've heard, or all the rumors, the speculation, etc. There is no question that Michael was out on that street that day, and he had gone looking to play with neighbor kids as well as.
So Chris McDonough said there's no question that he was out looking for kids to play with is huge. He knows that Michael wandered away from the house and was outside wandering around, not with his parents, not with his papa, not with siblings. He was by himself in the neighborhood.
Visit. There's also no question that the folks that came forward and confirmed all of that information are suffering as well. They feel horrible. So if we look at the victim risk continuum and we take the idea of, environments, situation, circumstance, low, medium, high. If he had stayed in that backyard, that would be obviously a very low situation. But he had a habit in the past. And of course, as a 5-year-old, he sees the dogs at the neighbor's house, and that's probably what attracted him. He tries to sneak, he gets out. Simultaneously, dad is ordering food, talking to their other son, who doesn't need to be involved in this, by the way. I saw one comment say, what about the other boy? Well, he doesn't need to be involved in this, A. And then, ordering food and then coming out and looking for him, and boom, he's gone, and he's in a panic. Tyler's in a panic. And his personality is one of, he's an introvert. But he put that into motion quickly. And there are witnesses that saw all of those behaviors taking place that night. So, kudos to Fruitland Police Department. Those guys are awesome. They're doing a heck of a job. They are committed 10,000% to find my monkey. And so we need to cut them some slack as well, because I know what they're doing. And I talk to them, and I'm not going to say or do anything that would jeopardize this investigation in any way, shape, or form. So I think what we need to do is now, as a community, the TIR community, as well as the true crime community, we need to focus on what is factual and what is speculation. And it's okay to have some speculation, but it's not okay to focus on the house right now, because I'm not in the house personally. I am not in the house. I'm in the neighborhood. And this little boy's been out there well over a year. And we need to keep hope, not only for this family, but, to put our collective intellect together and see if we can create leads, viable leads for the authorities, and let them do what they do. And that's one of my intent through this particular video here. So if we look at the victim risk continuum again, going back to that thought process, then what kind of victim do we have here? If he stays in the house, is he high, medium, or low risk victim if he stayed in the house? Right? I think we can all agree that at that point he would be a low risk victim. But because his personality was one of curiosity, i.e., he's a 5-year-old little boy, and everybody around said, Michael is an absolute dream. He's smart, and he was, curious and inquisitive. And by the way, the neighborhoods at that time, not everybody had Ring cameras. But it was even more important that he actually did make contact with people at their house. So it is 100% confirmed. I talked to them, and the authorities have confirmed it. So what we need is an absolute dream. He's smart, and he was, curious and inquisitive. And by the way, the neighborhoods at that time, not everybody had Ring cameras. But it was even more important that he actually did make contact with people at their house. So,
Chris McDonough is saying he did make contact with people at their house at that time. So there were people that told law enforcement they saw Michael.
it is 100% confirmed. I talked to them, and the authorities have confirmed it. So
and Chris is even saying he's talked to them, and even law enforcement has confirmed it.
We need to do is help them identify who that driver is in that white Honda Pilot.
And they know that now. The white Pilot isn't a question anymore. Just want to let everybody know.
Because that individual has not come forward. And my gut tells me he's in that area. Whoever that person was in that vehicle needs to come forward, and we need rational thought process to help that person come forward. And I hope this person is listening tonight, and that they pick up the phone and say, hey, I need to tell you something. And they may be scared. I don't know. They have not called this person a suspect in any way, shape, or form. This is a person that they need to eliminate. But whoever was driving that white Pilot, if you guys take a look at that picture and dissect that picture, see if we can tell, they can't find the driver through the DMV. They can find the registered owner, but that doesn't mean that registered owner was the driver. Great question. Great question, Miss Kitty 213. Great question. So, continue to be vigilant in relationship to, how we can help and not hinder, right? Which we do. The baby, I absolutely, Karen and I fell in love with their daughter. I mean, she's a cutie patootie. And boy, does she have a set of lungs. Holy cow. And it was awesome. So some of the sound that you hear in the beginning was the fan running, and I apologize for that. But, the other stuff is just, being a baby. And thank goodness. And I watched him very carefully for almost 3 days. No, the car was moving. The car was seen, and that is a camera that was seen. The car was seen near the splash pad, okay, in and around that area, going down 8th Street. Thank you, Crime Critters. Thank you. The fact that the driver hasn't come forward, I'm not going to.
Again, I just want to clarify that this is no longer an interest for law enforcement. This was early on. Maybe I'll skip forward just a tiny bit here.
Communicate with that driver. So that tells us that a friend to play with. That's what 5-year-olds do. So if we look at, the victim continuum, going back to that thought process, it's on a very low scale at the house. But the moment they get out into the public, i.e. in the front yard, now we have a very high risk scenario, especially if there was an RSO or something to that effect on the prowl.
And we do know there are 2 RSOs that live next to the Wandras in that neighborhood. I'm not sure if there were any others. He's talking about them being on the prowl. We don't know, we know that the Wandras and Brandon and Adrian are the named suspects. We know that Stacy's seen at the splash pad at 1:30. We know that he spent over 2 hours at a park in Payette at a skate park. We know that Brandon and Sarah drive around a mall. We know that they go in and walk around the mall. A lot of people and myself have speculated and wondered if what they are doing is being out on the prowl looking for someone to abduct, whether it be a teenager, a child, an adult, for any of the scams that they had going on. Adrian, lots of people think that maybe he was trying to find somebody to do some kind of prostitution for him.
And just a victim of opportunity presented itself. Now, anything is possible. There's a high probability, for sure.
Yeah, here we are 3.5 years later, and charges have been written up for all 4 suspects, and we're just waiting for those indictments.
Well, this individual is going to be, Michael was a targeted opportunity, meaning, he showed up. The suspect had already, within their mind at some point, had created a fantasy. And next thing you know it, there's his target. It could be as evil as Wesley Dodd, or it can be.
I don't know that them buying a shovel is on camera or not, but I know JLR had some information given to him by an employee at the Home Depot in Ontario that told JLR Investigates that Stacey Wandra came in and bought a shovel. And I do believe that JLR himself even says that he wasn't sure whether the tip from this employee was credible or not. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, Baby Kisses, but I really don't think that they have him like on camera, unless that's something that law enforcement has, of course, that we are, we're not privy to having that information, and that they are keeping close to the vest for the investigation.
Be anywhere, teenager to, a 30-year-old individual potentially in that ballpark, but they have already processed this. This is a predatorial behavior potential scenario. It's very high risk. They're very familiar with the area. They're very comfortable with the area. I think the police building, if you go back and look at part 1 here, I measured it off. I think it was 1.3 miles to the police department. So in that particular scenario, that suspect had taken that into consideration because they had to be very familiar. And so, what we can do, obviously, for 5-year-olds, it's tough to teach 5-year-olds not to trust adults.
It is so hard to teach the children not to trust adults. I mean, we have raised amazing babies in our family. My 6 grandbabies, and they're great, kind-hearted, loving children, and all of them. Hi, how are you? Or, oh my gosh, it is so very hard to teach your children that you cannot say hi to, or you cannot walk away with a stranger or trust a stranger. And then you get into who strangers are, and you can't tell them not to trust a police officer because you want them to be able to trust a police officer. But then we have people that want to dress like a police officer that want to abduct your child. Same with firemen. You know what I mean? Like, it is so very difficult for us to teach our children about stranger danger. They have to make a better way to do it, or you just, be as blunt and honest as you possibly can be. Like myself with my grandbabies, they know what I do, and I let them know a stranger is anybody that you don't know. If you don't know their first and last name, and even if you do know them, that doesn't mean you can trust them. If your mom or your grandma or your papa or your daddy hasn't told you, okay, so-and-so is coming to pick you up today at school, then you shouldn't leave with anybody from school, no matter what they tell you. Not even if it's a police officer saying somebody got hurt. You know what I mean? It's so difficult, but because my older grandchildren know what I do, I feel like they know, but I still wouldn't, say 100% no. Opal, honey, so good to see you. She writes, you are important, you are loved, you have a voice, you are valued, you are respected, and you matter. Thank you so much, Opal. Thank you for your kind heart. We absolutely love you.
It's very hard. I mean, I remember when I interviewed Dot, I asked him, how did you select your victimology? And remember, it was a sequence. And if you want to see those interviews I did with Dodd, those are also down in my playlist.
I did not know that he has interview with Dodd, and I'm going to have to write that down. Just a little bit of information for you guys. Wesley Allen Dodd, right here in Vancouver, Washington, in the house where the last boy that he harmed in the closet of his bedroom at the house is not even a mile away from my house right now. Wesley Allen Dodd was a horrible, horrible, horrible man, abducting SA little boys who ended up getting caught, who did get the death penalty. And what makes this an even more creepier story for me and my husband is that he used to live by Garrison Square, which is, like I said, a mile away. And he would leave his house and go up to the park there at Garrison Square and play hacky sack with Wesley Allen Dodd. They played hacky sack with each other all the time. And my husband was vomiting when we found out what he had done to boys. Wow. Crazy, crazy story. But you never know who somebody is. My husband said that he was like the nicest guy. They would talk and BS, play hacky sack, and they did this randomly, several times. Oh, but yeah, my husband was vomiting when he found out. Yeah, Chris did an interview with him. That's what I just heard him say, and now I need to go and watch it because I've been obsessed with everything Wesley Allen Dodd since. But my husband and I were pretty good judge of character. Now, I didn't know my husband at the time. He just told me he was puking when he found out after we got together. We weren't together when it happened. But he told me he puked for days and days. He had just played hacky sack with Wesley Allen Dodd the day before they found the last little boy's body in his house. Yeah, he was a very, very sick, sick man. Yeah, he ended up going to a Camas, Washougal movie theater and was in the bathroom and tried to abduct a little boy from that movie theater. And thankfully, the little boys screaming and yelling and everything caught the eye of somebody, and they were able to take him down. That's how he ended up getting arrested.
Go see how Wesley Dodd thought. And I'm not saying this is a Wesley Dodd situation. This is a great question. That is still a great question. I can tell you this. I know the PD wanted it, but it went to a different agency. And to Brandy's credit, she got the state to enact, some law changes.
Hey, OG Nanny, thank you so much for coming in.
So, there's a lot going on. No, he did not. Great question. Children can disappear quickly out of our sights, right? We've had 4 of them.
And Chris McDonough is just going over, somebody had asked why there wasn't an Amber Alert, and he even said that the PD wanted to put out an Amber Alert, but that's not what went out, and I agree with Chris McDonough when he says that there are laws that need to change. They have such strict, rules about how to put out an Amber Alert, when I just feel like if a child's missing, put out an alert. Any alert. Doesn't matter what it is, make it. Hell, for all I care, put out sirens like you do for a tornado when a child comes up missing. Get all hands on deck ASAP. Do something. I did hear one thing a long time ago, which to this day, I still stand strong and feel like it is something that you can do if you're ever in the situation. Say you're in public and you're with your son and he has a white t-shirt on and black shorts and he's got blue tennis shoes on, blonde hair, blue eyes. Say he comes up missing and you're in the middle of the store. You start yelling the description of your son. My son is missing. Blonde hair, blue eyes, white shirt, black shorts, and blue tennis shoes. And repeat it over and over and over and over again. And that makes people look for exactly what you're describing. Of course, while you're frantically looking for them, hollering their name, yell the description out of your child, whether you're in public, in a park. I have heard that this is a new technique that can be used if you're in a situation, at a mall or just anywhere. I mean, describe the child that's missing. Pay attention to what the children that you're with are wearing when you do go out in public. And it's so sad and messed up that we have to think this way and do these things. And it may not always be on your mind, but this is the world we live in. And people are uncomfortable with it. And we got to stop being uncomfortable with it. We have to keep talking about everything all the time. That's one of the reasons why I really wanted to get into children's cases, because nobody wants to talk about what happens to our children anymore. The trafficking in our country is insane, and our babies are being taken for it. And they are still not able to find a way to put a stop for it. I could go on and on. Zane Lilly, thank you for coming in, hun. Here's my admin on my Facebook groups. So scary. When my brother was 8 years old, he was at Winco with our mom. My brother had ran down an aisle without her, and a man picked him up and carried him 2 aisles down before he put my brother down. Oh my gosh, Zane, I just don't even know what I would do, Zane. For real. Kelly is saying that Monkey's Law has helped a lot with communication between agencies, as well as getting alerts out for missing and endangered persons. Kelly, do you know if Monkey's Law is just for Idaho? I remember that his, and that's awesome that the Vaughan family, created this Monkey's Law. People get into these certain situations, their children ends up being abducted, and then they do certain things, like the Vaughan family creating Monkey's Law. And Desiree Young, Kyron Horman's mother, she now goes out and teaches law enforcement how to talk to parents of missing children or missing family members, because she feels like there was a mistake made when law enforcement went to talk to one of the people, well, she ended up being the focus of Kyron's investigation, but she really felt like law enforcement messed up during the questioning. So that's what she teaches now. And we've got so many people out there like Elizabeth Smart, who Brandy and Blue and Lana just went and met up with during one of her things. She goes out and she talks about what happened to her. It all brings awareness. These are people that are involved and that are now talking about it because they know it needs to be talked about. And we all need to keep talking about everything. So yes, that is just for Idaho. Let's see what else Chris has to say here. We won't stay very much longer because I know it's Monkey Monday here shortly. OG Nanny says that she's so overprotective of her grands and hates it and says it's embarrassing. You know what? I would rather be a helicopter grandma than to have one of my babies come up missing, is all I know. And they, my kids tell me sometimes I'm paranoid. Until I started really looking in and researching things. I take grandbabies and stuff to the park all the time, but now when I go to the park, my eyes don't leave the kids. And when I take multiple kids, my anxiety goes up because it's hard when one's over here on the slide, but the other one's way over here on the swing. You know what I mean? And then how can you watch both of them at the same time when it only takes a second for one of them to be taken? And it started making me so crazy that now I won't even go to the park unless we have a couple of adults to take the kids. Make that make sense. That's how I have to do it so that my anxiety doesn't go up. And it's not me being paranoid. It's just me being precautious because that's the world we live in.
And how many times have our hearts dropped, just looking when we lose sight of them for a second?
Exactly.
And, this is one of those situations where, and you heard him, he admitted it. He said, look, I lost sight of him. And, what happened at that point? And he told us, he said, I panicked. And he's seen, by the way, on film, looking for his son. So, and mom is at work. Brandy's at work when Tyler called him and said, look, I can't find Monkey. And he's in a full-blown panic here. And she's with a customer at her work. And so she keeps the phone on and puts it in her work clothes for a second. And then, 10 seconds, 15, 20, 30 seconds, she's in a full panic and tells everybody, I got to go. And the two of them are now in a full-blown search for Monkey. And, those are the kind of things that, you expect of parents. And, as the chief said, the focus is not on the family. And so we need to help what that means.
So it looks like law enforcement told Chris that the family is not the focus here. So let's listen to that again.
Those are the kind of things that, you expect for Monkey. And, those are the kind of things that, you expect of parents. And, as the chief said, the focus is not on the family.
Chief said that the focus is not on the family. I don't ever believe that they have been, the parents, Brandy and Tyler Vaughan, have not been cleared publicly. But here's even Chris saying, J.D. Huff is saying they are not the focus. If they're not the focus, they are not suspects. It's that, they're not a person of interest. Law enforcement has said several times that they work with the Vaughan family. but you have not heard in the public they're not suspects. I don't believe that they've ever said that. I could be wrong. I've never personally seen it, but I do know that J.D. Huff does not believe that the Vaughan family has anything to do with Michael's abduction.
And so we need to help that. What that means is we need to help that community by, trying to keep the focus outside, because he's out there somewhere. And we need to make sure that we can help, and whatever that means, right? I don't even know what that means, to be honest with you. Those good people in Fruitland are just that. They're really great people.
They would have to be the focus of law enforcement for them to be a person of interest or to be a suspect. So in my personal opinion, it's the same thing. If they are not if they are not the focus of the investigation, they're not people of interest, they are not suspects, although it has not been mentioned publicly.
So this is a great question, Dragon Lady. So the Snake River is the opposite direction of the last direction of travel. So we have eyewitnesses that saw him going east, and the river is west, the opposite direction. Across those alfalfa fields, he would have had to navigate a bunch of terrain to get across there. So his habit was not to do that. His habit was to go look for friends. And
I love how he talks about Michael's habit and how looking to the west and the Snake River doesn't seem plausible here. And from the pictures and videos that I received from Hot Mess, I mean, there's like a huge ravine Michael would have had to have climbed down to even get into the field that would have led him to the Snake River. And I just really like the way he talks about Michael's habit, what Michael's habits were, where Michael would normally go when he left the house, because he is a child and he would probably stay with those habits. And going west wasn't something they thought that he did, even though they did search along the river, the fields, and everything else, just in case. I mean, I remember J.D. Huff saying something like if they could, they'd stop the dam and stop the river completely to look for Michael down there. So it wasn't like they weren't looking, but I really like how he's using the word habit and really focused on Monkey, what Monkey would do, what Monkey would think. And that's what you heard him doing when he was talking with Tyler, was tell me more about Monkey, what he would think, what would he have done, where would he have gone.
And the neighbors confirmed that they had children or they had grandchildren. And
so here you have neighbors confirming whether they had children or whether or not they had grandchildren, and you have Stacy Wander talking about this kid that he saw in the neighborhood. Okay, descriptions, everything that changed hundreds of times, from how old the child was to what the child looked like to what the child was playing with, wearing, where he was standing, where he wasn't standing, in a yard, on a sidewalk, the fact that a parent or someone called this child in, the color of the house that he ended up giving eventually, which was the last time that he talked on YouTube here on my panel. And the thing about it is they talked to the parents about children or grandchildren being in the area, and there was no children in the area as far as I've ever heard. So this child that Stacy sees, which in my personal opinion is almost pure stupidity that he even brought it up on YouTube, because law enforcement didn't even know about this child that Stacy said that he saw until he talked about it on YouTube. It's crazy.
I'm not going to get into too many details on that because, the authorities are still working. and that's the right thing to do, right? So AWP would not be advantageous in this. Trust me, I've already thought through that at this point. So Monkey went missing on July 27th, 2021. And the time frame lines up with the pizza deliveries and everything like that. So, yes, videos are corroborating witnesses.
And he's saying, yes, videos are cooperating with witnesses. So all of the information coming in by witnesses, by footage, by CCTV cameras, by the ordering the pizza, by the delivery of even the pizza, the phone call to 911, the phone call to Brandy, her being at work, everything is adding up to, we know this and this and this happened. XYZ happened. We know that because we know Michael wandered out of the house. We know he was by himself. We know he walked up and down here. He was seen here. He wasn't seen here. His pattern isn't this. This is what Michael would normally do. And then, of course, you have scent dogs who ended up losing track in certain areas. So all of those things put together led law enforcement to believe that Michael was abducted, and they put that statement out that Michael was abducted. And we know only 4% of children, 6% of children are abducted by strangers. So with them putting out Michael was abducted, that was huge in this neighborhood. And if you guys would like to finish, I heard some good advice. If you are going on an outing, take pictures of your child so you have the most current description. That is great, Doxy Mom, and thank you for coming in. I'm going to put the link up to this interview that he did with the family. So if you would like to finish watching it, you can click on this link and finish the rest of this. And he did do a Q&A with Brandy that we can go over tomorrow. I'm going to talk to my mods and find out if they have any other ideas on what to go over. I was thinking about the interview with Brandy. Not sure. Depends on what you guys think. I know we are going over a lot of new stuff, or not new stuff, old stuff is what I meant to say. And Monkey Monday at the round table is coming here soon. Not sure what time. It could even be on right now. I'm not sure. Matter of fact, let me look. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Let me see. Yes, the round table is live right now and has been. Oh my gosh, it started 55 minutes ago. I guess 5:30 is when it started. I thought it started at 6:30. So, let me get this real quick. If you guys want to do a shout out, run over there real quick. Let me see. I'm going to put that link right here, right now. Remember, if you have any tips at all, please call law enforcement at 208-642-6006. Any tips regarding Michael Joseph Vaughan? He was abducted June 27th of 2021. The four named suspects are Stacy Wandra, Sarah Wandra, Adrian Lucian, and Brandon Shirtliff. If you have any information, there is over $52,000 reward leading to Michael, and you can remain anonymous. You may have heard a rumor, you may know something very specific. Please let law enforcement determine whether or not it's a credible tip or not. I'm not going to continue talking much more. I'll put up another thumbnail for tomorrow afternoon. I hope to see you guys all there. Please join the round table and join that live, please. Again, the telephone number for a tip is 208-642-6006 or email findmichael@fruitland.org. Have a good night, everybody. And I just want to say, anytime anybody does a live on that has something to do with Tyler, it just seems like there are so many questions that start rolling in from people. And it's really difficult when you know that law enforcement isn't focused on the parents to get so many questions in chat, asking questions or making me feel like you're attacking the parents or questioning what law enforcement has already said, or questioning Chris McDonough, who's been doing this for 42 years, who works the Cold Case Foundation, who works abducted children. When they're saying that the parents are not the focus, they are not the focus. And I don't want to continue answering questions that seem to be leading in the direction of either Tyler or Brandy's guilt in the abduction or disappearance in Michael Vaughan's abduction and murder. There are 4 named suspects, and none of those suspects are his parents. And that's the straight up truth. That's where the facts have led us. We have done nothing but follow Fruitland Police Department and their facts in this case, and nothing says that the parents are involved. So we need to continue to share Michael, share his story, and remember what is fact, what is rumor in his case. Have a good night.